So I recently rolled credits on God of War Ragnarok's new and I think only DLC, Valhalla. And not only was it just an incredible addition to the game in terms of the gameplay, but in terms of a perfect capstone wrap-up for Kratos' journey. And I just want to talk a little bit about that, kind of how this DLC achieves that in both the gameplay and storytelling aspects, and just kind of just discuss it, because I absolutely adored this free DLC, and for me personally, it gave some new aspects of Ragnarok that I wished were in the base game, and it made my love for the game grow even more. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and let's chat.
You will always be a monster.
I know. But I am your monster no longer.
So I actually only finished God of War Ragnarok maybe a couple months ago, and of course I loved it. It's an incredible game, but I really wanted to see more of Kratos' internal journey, dealing with facing his past, etc., and that was one of my favorite parts of the 2018 game. And of course we didn't really see that in Ragnarok because, it's more of Atreus' story, and it was more of just the father and son aspect. But this DLC solely focuses on Kratos, and it kind of serves, like I said, as a perfect capstone to Kratos' story as a whole, and acting as a bit of more of a bridge between the Greek and Norse games. Because we see in the Norse games, Kratos constantly trying to defy fate, particularly in Ragnarok, as most of its story kind of revolved around the prophecy of Kratos sacrificing himself and Atreus trying to stop it, while Kratos is also trying to save Atreus just from certain prophecies and the pitfalls of trying to outrun them, because he knows what that is like with his past in the Greek games. By the end of Ragnarok, though, they ultimately learn, and Atreus more, that they can make their own fates as long as they choose to be better. And that was kind of, one of the central themes to both games, but definitely the first one, I would say, more than the second, but it was a good theme for both Kratos and Atreus to want to kind of be better and not be held down by prophecies or held down by their pasts, even if they're still carrying the weight of the things they've done. But here in Valhalla, a new theme is introduced as Kratos has been better now, but he still faces these internal doubts, and he has to learn how to, quote unquote, master thyself. And the way that's introduced in this DLC is by Kratos going to Valhalla when he's not dead, so he's obviously not supposed to be there. So Valhalla kind of responds and reacts to him being there, and he's forced to come face to face with parts of his past that he, thought he had moved on from, in order to try and see himself in a new light, and not just see all the negatives and all the terrible things he's done, but see them in lenses of ways like why he was doing them and see the nuances. And spoilers here for the end of the DLC, he ultimately chooses to kind of begin the fulfillment of Ragnarok's final prophecy, with him becoming the new God of War, taking up that mantle, and more so being a God of War, being a God of hope, and being something that people can look towards. And this was just everything that I really wanted from the base game. I wanted Kratos to deal with all this internal strife and be able to not only accept the things he's done in the past and just kind of trying to move past it and move forward with it, but to just truly sit with and acknowledge in himself that, hey, this is who I was. Obviously, that's not who I am anymore, but there were also good things I did do, and I can take that and continue to do that. In Valhalla, the whole thing with Kratos, he doesn't want to become the new God of War because he doesn't want to take up that throne again. He really is terrified of taking up this throne and falling back into the pitfalls, because he knows how that happened to him in the past, and he saw it with all the other Greek gods as well. And it's even seen in the base game with Odin. Kratos is just ultimately afraid of having a quote-unquote throne and becoming the man he once was and the man he doesn't want to be. And at the end of Valhalla, we see Kratos literally coming face to face with himself inside of Valhalla's twisted projections of his imagination. And he decides to just sit on the throne. He basically just tells his past self and all the lies his mind is telling him to kind of kick it to the curb, so to say, and it was such an incredibly powerful moment where he defies who he believes he has been, and chooses to see himself through a slightly different light, and chooses to see the nuance in the bad that he did, because there's actually a bit of a gray area in a lot of the things, and he chooses to see and learns to see that he was actually doing things with sometimes more of a positive motivation than he thought, or in just situations where the outcome seemed impossible and he had to make impossible choices. And he chooses to see that he has been and can continue to be a figure of hope for the people in the Norse realm, especially after the events of Ragnarok. And the setting of Valhalla here was literally such a perfect location for all of this to play out, because they decided to make this version of Valhalla one that really draws on person's memories in the form of an entire roguelike mode, which I love, first of all. And second of all, Sony Santa Monica did not cut any corners here. They literally created a whole separate game inside of God of War Ragnarok and gave it to everyone for free, which is insane. Like, this mode, this Valhalla mode, has like all of the elements of, you know, popular roguelikes like Hades. Like, you go into a procedurally generated area with different enemies and different rewards at the end that you can choose to take. Oh, and you can also choose to take on a burden for a couple of different rounds and then get a reward at the end of it, just like in Hades or your Dead Cells or whatever it may be. It genuinely is baffling that this is free and an addition to an already finished and fully formed game. Like, this is something that a lot of other developers would have not only charged for, but made as a separate game, and they didn't do that here, so that was incredible. This game mode as a whole really, you know, was a great vehicle for which the story was to be told, because the roguelike aspect of repeating the same things over and over to master thyself ties perfectly into Kratos' internal journey. And since he's God of War, you know, fighting and punching things is a really good way for him to mull things over. So that's what he does here. Throughout this about 8 or 9 hour like story journey, Kratos and the player slowly begin to confront aspects of his past through Greek figures showing up and Greek monsters showing up, which was awesome and also terrifying because some of them were like really hard. Not gonna lie, this mode was quite challenging. I had to lower the difficulty once or twice, but it was still very, very good. This repeated aspect worked not only for myself as a player, but clearly worked well for Kratos, because each time you kind of finished a run, it was similar to something like Hades, where no matter how far you got, you can kind of still get some level of progression, either in the form of, you know, getting certain materials to kind of upgrade gear, or progression and bounties, which can give you more materials to upgrade your gear and health, stuff like that, which was incredible, and I really, really appreciated and did not expect for them to add. They undersold this DLC in like the trailer and stuff that they announced at the Game Awards by a long shot. If you own God of War Ragnarok and you haven't picked this up, bro, what are you doing? Go play this. But if you don't own Ragnarok, I hope you didn't get to this point in the video since I spoiled quite a bit, but it was truly incredible, and from both the gameplay and story perspective, a perfect capstone to Kratos' journey. And I don't know where they're going to go from here, honestly. Like, they could really go a lot of different directions, and considering the fact that they created all the assets for a lot of the Greek monsters, like the Minotaur, Cyclops, Siren, and all the other ones that are in Valhalla, it seems to me they could go back and do some Greek stuff, but I feel like they won't. And I really hope that there's some more God of War games and we get to see more of Kratos' continual journey. I don't really know what they could do, and if they don't do anything else, this was the absolute perfect epilogue to his journey and the God of War series as a whole, in my opinion. So if they don't make any more, that would be totally fine by me. I would be very sad because these games are incredible, but there is at this point nothing more in the story itself that I actually want to see. At the end of Ragnarok, there was more, and this was that more for me. So if you felt like the end of Ragnarok wasn't like complete wrapping up for you, then give this mode a shot, because it really did that for me, and I was very, very impressed and very satisfied. And now I just want to go play more God of War, and unfortunately there's not much more for me to do except clean up a lot of achievements and fight the Berserker Kings and stuff in the base game, which I'm planning on doing, so wish me luck on that. Let me know any of your thoughts if you have played this mode, if you haven't, and let me know what you think, if this was a good wrap up for Kratos' journey or not, how you felt at the end of Ragnarok. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I was able to provide some extra insight into Kratos' journey that you may not have heard before. If not, that's totally okay. These are just my thoughts. So hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you all later.